Amanda.
Well, good morning, everyone. Like I already told, Amanda Martin, Assistant Director over here at DCAP with Sherry. So it's wonderful to see so many faces this morning, this early. So I'm going to share my screen and pull on up my PowerPoint for you all. Give something to look at. Let's see. There we go. All right. Awesome. So I'm going to talk about the College Autism Readiness Retreat today. You'll often hear me refer to it as CARR. That's our abbreviation for the College Autism Retreat. This is run not just through DCAP at Westchester, but we actually partner with My Place, which is our equivalent up at Kutztown University. So without further ado, here we go. So for the College Autism Readiness Retreat, our goal is to provide an experience for students, and this is an overnight on-campus experience for students on the spectrum to prepare for college. CARR has two levels. There's CARR 1, CARR, which I'm going to talk about, then I'm going to talk about CARR 2. But for CARR, our first one is for high school juniors and seniors. Students only for the autism spectrum. They can have other things with autism, but our primary audience here is for autism. And then intending to pursue a 4-year undergraduate degree. It doesn't have to be just at Westchester or just at Kutztown University. It can be any university they plan to go to afterwards, but it's with the intention to go to college and further their education. So at this current time, we run CARR up at Kutztown University. So the director up there, Mackenzie, myself, Sherry, all go up there and we run CARR. So what does it look like? The retreat days, right? So it's a living experience. So this is going to be in the res hall. So you can get that experience. What is it like to live in the res halls? What are the expectations to living in the res halls? And they have roommates. They're not in their single units. They're getting the roommate experience too. So this is going to be for 2 nights, 3 days. They're going to access dining. That's another big thing. What is the expectations in dining? Where do we put our dishes after? Who do we talk to? What are those experiences going to look like? And then gaining information from campus services, right? So you're going to have things like the health and wellness, counseling office, tutoring, disability services, all these offices, so that students can start seeing, these are my resources. These are the people I want to go to. These are the tools that they offer me here on my campus. And what is this generalized at? So it might look like this at Kutztown, but what is this going to look like if I go to Westchester or if I go to another university somewhere else? What might this look like? Touring it. So of course, if we're going to be there for a few days, you don't want to get lost. You want to familiarize yourself with the campus, get an idea of what a university experience is going to look like. So where is the rec center? How big is it? Where is the library? Student union, so forth. Where are all these places located on campus? Being able to use a map, campus map, finding these places and finding the resources that these places offer. Participating in classroom formats. So they actually get to sit through what a lecture would be, what a lab would be. So we have these set up. We have very fortunate to have such support from Kutztown and Westchester staff, because we have professors come in and do a mini lecture and this is what a topic might be. This is the expectations from a professor. This is what they expect you to do. Going over even little things like think like you don't have to raise your hand to go to the bathroom because you're not in high school anymore, you're in college. And other expectations maybe with the professor, but outside of it. So how do you email your professor? What do you say in the email? What are office hours? When do you go to office hours? Things like that that they might not have heard of in high school, and you want to know this so you can access those resources when you get to college. And then it kind of goes right along with it, the etiquette, right? So what is appropriate? What isn't? What should you be doing? As well as the communication skills and getting the chance to actually practice that in that smaller setting where we're there. So it can be a learning experience versus getting to college without having this experience and getting overwhelmed. And then finally with this, differentiating, here's a big one, the entitlement versus the eligibility, IDEA versus ADA. So for those who aren't familiar, in high school, you're going to have the entitlement, you're going to have disability supports there versus when you get to higher ed, you do have the eligibility, but now you have that independence. You need to go out and reach out for those resources. You need to find the disability office at that campus. For us, it'd be OSSB, whatever they may call it at other universities, and say, okay, this is where I need to go to get, whatever you may have had in high school, extra extended time taking a test or quiet area to take a test, maybe some kind of software you might need, whatever your support would be, going to that office and accessing it, and then getting things like a letter of accommodation to share with your professors versus high school where the professor's already going to be aware. All right, so going on to our next slides here. So now I want to talk about CARR 2. So CARR 1, you're kind of the baby steps, but now we're at CARR 2. You're still going to have that experience because we're building upon that now, though. So yes, it's overnight, it's on campus, just like the other ones. They'll focus the same population, but now this one isn't for the high school juniors and seniors. This is now you've graduated high school and you're over 18, and you're most likely going to be starting college in the fall afterwards, right? So, and same attending for a degree. Now, CARR 2 at this time we had, at least this past summer, here at Westchester, which was fun. This was our pilot year. This is our first year for CARR 2. Very, very happy to say we have several students who attended, who ended up coming here actually. So it's exciting to get to see those same faces, have such a good experience that they wanted to stay around. All right. Oops, that one too far. All right, so retreat day at CARR 2. So now we're going to stay a little longer since we have leveled up. We're not at CARR 1 anymore, now we're at CARR 2. So we're going to be here for 3 nights and 4 days. So you're here for a little longer. It's not too much longer, but it is longer. Accessing the dining hall again, but now we might be doing more of, instead of CARR 1, where we might kind of lead you there, this is what it is. Well, now we're at CARR 2. Here's your dining hall. What did you learn from CARR 1? And then going deeper into this, evolving from this. So now you know what dining hall is. Maybe now we're going to talk about meal plans. What are the different options for meal plans? Looking it up for what school you plan to go to in the fall, if you don't know already. And then practicing those budgeting skills. So if you have, for example, RAM bucks, since we're on campus here, if you have a set amount, which is what we did over the summer with the students, if you have a set amount, how can I budget this to last me for the full time I'm here so that I don't either overspend and spend all my money on the first day? I know we've always have college students, not just with our population, but, oh, I went through my meal plan too fast. So what does it look like? Budgeting that. How many days, how much should I spend for each of those days? But also making sure to use it, having students that aren't scared to, use their meal plan. You don't want them to think they have to save them all, and then they don't end up using their meal plans and their swipes and their Ramblocks. And then also attending workshops. So much like CARR, in CARR 2, we're still having those workshops, those experiences, but now we're going to have ones that are a little deeper, and they're also going to have a little bit of homework from these workshops. And maybe they have to have a handout filled out or questions prepared from these workshops. So that's what you're going to have when you get to college, right? You're going to get to college, you're going to have things to do outside of class. And they're going to have workshops on some deeper skills versus in CARR 1, we have, a little mini lecture. Here we have longer workshops, and you're going over some more deeper topics like self-advocacy, stress management with counseling center, things like that. We're going to learn more about majors once we get to CARR 2. So maybe you've chosen this major. What are you going to do with it afterwards? Having the Career Center involved. What career opportunities are going to be available for the major you've chosen? And what experiences can we start thinking about doing when we're in college to prep us for when we graduate? Are there any part-time jobs? Are there any work study, volunteer experiences, internships? Or just in general using the Career Center to do things like having mock interviews, having your resume looked over. And of course, early start programs as well. So if there's anything over the summer to get a head start on. And then locating these offices. So in CARR 1, we kind of led around to where everything is. CARR 2 is much more, we are not going to be with you and your group. You've created a schedule, which is something we do with them. You're going to use your map. You're going to download, WC Mobile on your phone, and you're going to get yourself in your res hall to wherever that workshop's going to be. Is it at DCAP? Is it in the Career Center building? Is it going to be in the business building? Wherever you need to be to practice that independence, which is also really nice because it gets students familiar with the buildings on campus when they go to find their classes that fall. I'll go for it.
Jack, just for a second, Amanda, as she has to mute herself. So we share an office with just a little tiny wall in between us, so we get echoing. And this is where I said I'd interrupt, right? I think one of the things I want to focus on too, when it comes to CARR 2 versus CARR 1, is thinking that these are young adults, right? They're already 18. They're going to college in a few weeks. The participants in that CARR 2 program. So a big part of that too is working on their schedule. So we actually devised it so that roommates could not they wouldn't have the same schedule, because they wanted them to have that real life experience of, you don't travel as a group anymore. You don't all start at 8 a.m. You don't all go to the same classes. So we made it so as each day progressed, like that Monday they were all together, but by Tuesday when they devised their schedule, oh, my roommate has to be there at 8, where I don't have to be anywhere until 9:30, right? And then the next day, by Wednesday, it was more of the, all right, we're switching it a little bit. Like now I'm going with a different group, and some roommates went, but some people didn't. And then by Thursday it was, hey, why don't you pick whoever you want to go to? And there was nothing that really helped divide. So they were coming together, but it was really trying to give them this, we built up day by day to get that real life experience, because what we found, I just kind of want to give a little bit of background information as to why we found that so important in devising a schedule like that, is taking data from what we have done previously with the Bridge program, right? When we piloted the Bridge program, looking at what my students struggled with as they were coming into college. So I think the Bridge program lasted, I think we did it for 2 years, I think it was. And what I found is that my students forgot about DCAP supports, because everything was so structured during that Bridge program. It was a 9 to 12, you had your break, 1 to 4 classes, right? but then everything else, your meetings were structured during that time. You had all your group times structured, and then you didn't have time to access the other supports on campus. And so what I wanted, so that first week of classes of fall semester, what I find is my students were not coming that had signed up for DCAP because they thought that it'd already just be assigned and everything would be the same. And then they really struggled. And so what we wanted to do is to make sure that our students in CARR 2 were able to realize, you know, you have different schedules. There will be breaks in between. You do not go to classes the same time. How do you set up for lunch? Because lunch isn't always the same time as your roommates or people from your classes, right? Oh, you have homework to do, a group assignment to do with your group, but how are you going to do that when you have different schedules? So a lot of that executive functioning coming in, and yes, there was frustration left and right of the executive functioning piece of how do I devise a schedule like that. But I just want to kind of give that feedback and the importance of that. And I don't know, Amanda, if this is even in your slides, but I will tell you is this year when we do it, we will be going up to 5 days, 4 nights. We were doing this the whole week because we still didn't have enough time to get in everything. And we had so many, I'm just going to give a shout out because we had so many great departments that wanted to participate and we couldn't figure out ways to fit them in the 4 days without completely exhausting our students. So it could even go longer than that in the future. But right now we're going to try to get that 1 week and pilot that for this coming up year. All right. Sorry, Amanda. I will be quiet now.
No, it's good stuff to have. So yes, all of those good things that Sherry said. And then also, same thing as in CARR 1, we're going to make sure to differentiate those, a reminder of the entitlement versus eligibility once you get to college, making sure, well, actually, we were very fortunate that OSSD worked with us here because we were fortunate, majority of them happened to be planning to go to Westchester in the fall. So while they were here, we're already at the OSSD, well, very convenient to sign up to have those supports while we were there. So shout out to OSSD for providing that awesome support over the summer. But yes, making sure so that they're prepared come fall, they already have their letters of accommodations for their classrooms. All right, so going over the different rules. You're going to need these when you get to college, right? So, one, and these are a lot of things we really supported over the camps over the summer. We had like a ticket program where if we saw a student showing one of these skills, they could then at the end say like it was reinforced. So that way when they come to college, come fall, they had already practiced and knew how to use these skills. But one, carefulness/safety. So that's a big thing. When you're on a big college campus, you gotta think how 17,000 students here? That's a big campus. How do we do that and travel safely around campus? What are things that students who maybe aren't on the spectrum might not think about? I feel like sometimes things that, looking to cross the street, that is really hard for some of our students because reading, it's a lot of social cues into that you may not think about as a neurotypical person because you have to read, is the person in the car waving at you? What does that mean if someone in a car is waving at you? We've had students who have thought, oh, that means get away, not cross the street. Or if there's no sign for some of the crosswalks, some of them don't have the light or it's just the crosswalk, when is it safe? We've had students who've waited just for the other students that cross so they know it's safe to cross because they see someone else doing it. So that's a big thing we really highlighted over camp, to knowing the rules and having our wonderful public safety come out and demonstrate this and explain, this is what to do, this is what not to do when you're on campus. Recommending, students, you need to look over, read things like the Student Code of Conduct. These are here to explain to you how to be safe on campus, as well as the map. So, making sure everyone can use the map, not that just you have it, that you can use it, because navigation can be really challenging for some of our students. And some smaller things like locks in your door, you might do that without even thinking about, just, you lock it, you walk out, you're done. For some of our students, that can be challenging. Did I lock the door? Do I even have my keys? What do I do to remember that I have my keys with me? Do we always keep it in our backpack? Do we put it on a lanyard just so the keys aren't, laying around? We don't lock ourselves out of our dorm room. Things like that we may not think about on a day-to-day basis, that for our students, it's really essential to practice those safety skills. And then next we have active. So active, so how are they engaging? Are they responding back to the professors or the staff, whoever's running like the workshops over the summer? Are they talking to their peers? Because you don't want to come to college and then just be sitting there on your phone, not paying attention, because you're not going to learn things. You're probably going to get points off from your professor if you're sitting there on your phone. Teaching that this is what you do when you get to college. This is how you interact. One, you're building those social skills, and then two, you're essentially learning how to learn, because if you don't practice these skills, you're not going to know what to do when you have those group projects. And you're not going to know when the professor might be looking for you to raise your hand. They don't outright say, raise your hand. A lot of our students can be very literal. So the professor's just out looking for a response. They don't say, I am looking for a response, or someone please raise your hand. They might just sit there. So having those breakdowns with the students, and then, going on and then having them not just, how often should I? That's actually one of the questions I've had over the camp. How often is enough versus too much? Because they didn't know. They said, if I raise my hand every 5 minutes, my teacher's going to get annoyed with me. Well, yeah, so maybe we don't raise our hand for every single thing we think of. Maybe first we think of, is this something I could ask quietly to the person at the desk next to me? Or is this something I can write down later for office hours? Or is this the kind of question where I need to raise my hand now and ask in class, because there's probably other students in class who might have this kind of question? That was actually a popular question of how often is enough versus too much. And then we have perspective. So what does that look like? Because a lot of our students, that's a social thing. It could be, especially if you have different cultures, different ages, what is perspective? So we defined it: polite, following directions, respect boundaries, asking permission. And then of course, breaking that down. What does polite look like? What does following directions look like? And then the last two were really big ones, actually. So respecting boundaries and explaining what boundaries were, because to them, that a lot of them couldn't give the exact, this is what a boundary is. So what, let's use personal space boundary as one. So if I was to, sit up for today, Sherry, I wouldn't be giving Sherry any personal space. But some of our students, they didn't know what the personal space boundary existed. They just think, oh, well, I'm friends with Sherry. It's okay if I am right up touching elbows with her, and that she might not, want some space between us when we're sitting in class. And then the permission one. So permission for a lot of things on campus. So for example, COVID aside, permission for, can I put my hand on your elbow, or if the student's dating, like permission to, can I hold your hand? Can I kiss you? Things like that, because that's a big social thing that our students have a hard time reading those social cues. If they need to learn to ask, is it okay if I X, Y, or Z? Or other things. Social media is a big thing these days, right? So pictures, is it okay if I take this picture and put it on whatever social media platform I use? Is it okay if I take this video of us and upload it to whatever later, so that we don't get in trouble later when we're taking pictures, if someone doesn't want those pictures taken, because our students might not understand if those pictures weren't wanted. They thought that, oh, they're going to be my best friend, we're going to take lots of pictures, like they're the bestest of intentions. So just making sure to explain like, hey, let's ask first to make sure they're okay with that. Responsible. So keeping track of personal belongings, maintains hygiene, arrives on time for activities. This is the definition that we gave them during camp. So I kind of went over it earlier with the personal belongings, keeping our phones, keys, all that in our bags on our person, maintaining hygiene. So that's, for some of our students, can be challenging. How often do I shower? Or Sherry, I'm gonna share this one story from one of our students that you had before, where you told a student to shower, but we didn't say to change the clothes. So we showered, but then we came back and we had the same dirty clothes on that we had before we showered. Best of intentions, but just didn't know that that was a social expectation to do that. And with that, for a lot of our students, teaching how to do laundry once you get to campus. There's a lot of students, and I think this can be said for students even not with autism, students in general in college. Mom and dad were doing the laundry in high school, and now they get to college, and you're trying to learn, pinks don't go with whites and this and that, and so not overflowing the laundry machine and the res halls. So that's just practicing some of that skills and time management, so we can arrive on time for our activities. If your class is at 3 o'clock, you should not be leaving your room at 3. That means you need to leave 10 minutes before your room so you can actually be in the classroom at 3.
I'm going to interject again, Amanda, because I think of how we also devise like the schedules, right? And as they come in and we're talking about this time management piece, I have to share the story with you of what we did for breakfast, because of you that were on campus at all this summer know that we did not have a dining hall. So we were not able to use any of that. Plus we had troubles with they can no longer use the RAM bucks in the vending machines. And so it was just a little bit of a chaos, right? So in that, when we had to bring in breakfast every morning, and we'd have that at DCAP and have it, so they would go through and then they could eat up here. Well, each day they had a time that they could come through, right? And they were all here at the in between, like it was like a half-hour time period. Like, hey, you need to report at 8, and you can review your schedule, and then you guys can go on your way, type of thing. Well, the last day, remember, we're being more lenient, so it becomes breakfast starts at 8, will be served from 8 to 9, right? Some people had a workshop at 8:45. Some people did not have a workshop until 9:15. I want you to think when you would come to the open breakfast from 8 to 9, if you had a workshop at the 8:45 one versus the 9:15. Guess what time everybody was here, regardless of the workshop? 8 o'clock. Guess who had trouble at the checkout lane? This person. So I pulled in at 8:03 with my vultures in the parking lot saying, "You're late, we're hungry." And I was pretty much saying, "Why are you all here? Like, it doesn't take you 45 minutes." And it's not like we had like scrambled eggs, bacon, and waffles, I'm like, you got the good old bananas, apples, bagels, donut type of thing going on, some cereal. So anyway, do we think about time management? We had gone over that twice the day before with them, and still on the last day. So we did end up having to talk about that, just because of thinking about the dining hall. When the dining hall says it's open for breakfast from 7 a.m. until 10 a.m. That doesn't mean if you don't have a class until 10 a.m. that you have to go at 7 a.m. And that was something that, again, it was really great to experience that, because I have to say, in this field for 20 plus years, I didn't think they would all be there at 8 o'clock after we reviewed it twice. So just something else to think about from a time management standpoint. So sorry, Amanda, I had to give that story of we're hungry.
That was a good one. So yes, wrapping up some of our roles here with self-advocacy. So self-advocacy is a big thing when we get to college, and I think that's something that a lot of people don't even realize they're doing. So this might be, we define it to students, requesting assistance with whoever you're talking to or working with, seeking office hours, since we've gone over what office hours are for professors, and then asking your resources. So is it something DCAP related, or is OSSD related, LARC, tutoring, knowing how and then when as well. So if we're having trouble studying for class, we don't want to email the professor the night before. We want to make sure that we ask in advance if we're starting to have trouble. Or scheduling for a tutor as soon as we think we may need one, not waiting till 2 weeks before finals to, oh, well, I'm not doing so hot in this class. Maybe I should have signed up for a tutor. And making sure to just utilizing resources and explaining that it's okay to use these resources. They are there for you. So I know a lot of students, not just our students, have this connotation to, well, I only need to use the writing center, or I only need to use the LARC if I'm gonna fail that class. Like, no, these resources are here for you to use. Everyone uses them, and it's not just for undergrads, it's for grads too. And it's like going on and teaching them, like, these are healthy ways to do well in college. Because if you have that tutoring appointment, well, now you're going to be less stressed because you're not going to be as worried about that class because someone's helping you with it, and things like that. So
I'm going to interrupt again, just you know it. So what I'm going to look at, everybody within the audience, and look at, what do you see for the first 4 rules? What do they spell out? Anybody notice? Ah, Sabrina notices now. Like, I saw the aha moment. So what we wanted to use are some mnemonic devices, right? For like study skills, and how can you remember your rules? And that's part of like positive behavior supports. We're always looking at how we can have something quick to remember. So it spells out CARR, right? Be careful. I don't have this. I forgot what the A was for. But be respectful, be responsible. And then we added in that self-advocacy. But really, whenever, and we do the same thing for CARR up at Kutztown. We actually have the very similar system here at DCAP, where our rules for DCAP is RAM. Are you ready for RAM today? And the RAM stands for ready, active, and mindful. And they're all defined. Like, when you come into group, when you come into social to hang out, when you're studying, are you ready? Are you actively participating and doing what you need to do? Mindful, meaning, are you mindful of others? Are you mindful of the things that you brought in? Are you cleaning up after yourself? Like, so in that, when we're thinking of our rules, we really want to make sure that they can take it with them, and that having an acronym really helps them. And then we think about that from a study skills standpoint later. So, all right. Sorry, Amanda.
Okay. All right, so I'll take us to our next slide here. So as part of this presentation, I promised I would show you all the supporting departments that were a part of this experience. And I think it's kind of mind-blowing to think about how many offices and resources that the students have had access to, and how supportive this program is, DCAP and CARR on campus. So of course, we have ourselves up here because we are, of course, a resource, and we're running this with the help of Kutztown. We have OSSD, so like we mentioned earlier, and we also make sure to generalize this so that students know where these offices would be on other campuses. But I'm going to go through these from the Kutztown and Westchester attributes here. So the students are familiar with it. They've had the directors in these programs speak with the students. They tell them what they can get from their office. When they were here for CARR 2 at Westchester, they got to sign up for their letters of accommodations over the summer, which was great. Getting students familiar with the registrar of financial aid and bursar, especially here at Westchester, I know. Okay. We're going to locate those services. Res Life living on campus, the LARC running the tutoring and writing center presentation, the professors running those practice lectures, the library coming and talking about their resources, as well as the counseling center running workshops on stress management, self-advocacy, the Career Center. As you can see, our lovely picture here of our students, and so forth. Well, that was all our time here, but having all of these offices and more, honestly, support our students on campus, and have them be connected before they even set foot here for the first day of fall really makes a difference. And we couldn't do this without all of them. So, all right. I'm going to thank you all for coming and ask if anyone has any questions.
Okay, thank you, Amanda and Sherry, for your helpful interruptions, which is really good. I have a question about you said that the timing was kind of like a week before they come in. So I wanted to see what is the correlation between the new student programs orientation and how do they kind of like overlap or work together, and like then the timing wise of it.
So actually the program for CARR 2, so CARR up at Kutztown runs the last week of June. And then actually the CARR 2 program runs in July. So we don't put it up right next to the week, because what we run into are some of these students. So this summer we had 16 students. Of those 16 students that participated, I believe 13 of them were WCU students, where we had Hack, St. Joe, and I think or Cabrini were the other universities that the students were going to, our community college. In that, we also want to be very cognizant of USH and the housing. And we know that once August hits, it gets very difficult. So just to kind of go off of what you're saying too here, and you're asking that, Sabrina, is this, we didn't talk about a new pilot program either that we have, where we partnered with Devreux Spark in running a program called High School Youth Higher Education Program. We call it HYPE for short, where the school year program takes over, is done by Spark. And then in the summer, coming up this summer, we'll have our first cohort of 8 students who we know have gone through training at Spark after school, and their parents have too. So they'll actually be here for 2 weeks at the end of July. For their program, where they spend a week as a commuter student, and their high school, because this will be at the end of their junior year, and then a week here as a residential student, so that they'll stay overnight. So that curriculum will look a little bit more like the CARR up at Kutztown, because they're going to have to travel as a group because they're minors, right? Then they're going to go back to Spark, and they're going to have another year of after school, once a week, 2-hour programming. After they graduate high school, then that's their senior year, right? They'll come back to us actually for 12 days. So they'll be here over a weekend. That will, when we program that one, it will overlap with CARR 2, because a lot of the activities will be similar to what CARR 2 was. The difference between these, and that will take place, like I said, in July as well, because I really want to be cognizant of that overlap of once August hits, housing, the campus, it starts to get much busier. We want to respect the fact that the dorms or the residence halls start to fill up a little bit more. But those students, the difference between this CARR program and HYPE program is that we know what the programming and what's been taught to the students in HYPE. We don't know where CARR students, what previous knowledge they have been taught and to what they should expect at a college campus. So that's the difference in it. But there's a lot of similarities as well, just getting them ready. And they do not have to be coming to Westchester or Kutztown. So I know I just threw a lot of information in there. Sorry. But yeah, there's lots of I don't want to say pressure, emphasis on these college prep programs. Lots. And our funding source, because this is what comes up all the time, like, how do you fund something like this? Like, how expensive is it? We actually are extremely lucky, and I'm going to keep knocking on wood over here. Office of Vocational Rehabilitation for PA residents, we have a contract with them where they will pay 100% of our CARR programs, our HYPE program, and it's what funds our DCAP students right now too. We are very, very fortunate that from a DCAP standpoint, we have never charged anybody. CARR students are starting to pick up on, oh, wait, I can actually register with OSSD, with OVR, and they will pay for this. And that HYPE program is a pretty lofty cost that OVR really likes the program, and they decided they would actually pay the entire cost of it, 100% funding. So, I mean, that's what the need is and what we're seeing in the college campuses. And I'm telling you, what we saw this summer was a huge indicator of what the semester was going to be like, and it did not fail. It did not fail at all, unfortunately. So, any other questions? Okay. As I said, we had a lot more. We will be expanding CARR into a week-long program. When you talked about new student programs, you know, we've worked a lot with new student programs in the past 2 years because of our orientation welcome leaders, because we partnered with them to have our welcome leaders there. So looking at the activities where we can double over and do some of the activities with them. So, all right.
Good.
Well, thank you, everybody.
Any other questions? Thank you so much, Amanda and Sherry, for presenting that. That is a really great program. I'm excited to see how it expands and other ways that our departments can partner as well. So thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Sarah had put the assessment in the chat if you wanted to check that out after and tell Amanda and Sherry how wonderful they were. So thank you all so much. And hopefully you'll stay on for the next session at 10 o'clock. But if not, we hope you enjoy the rest of your day. So thank you again, Amanda and Sherry. We really appreciate it.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Sarah, do you have the recording, the stop recording part of it? It looks like it's still recording.
I think so.
Well, one of us should be maybe I'm a co-host.
I was just gonna, if I leave, I think you're gonna be
I'm a
left.
host.
Mine
Let me
does